Hello, hello, hello. Anybody over here yet? What up? What up? Boy, that went quick. 50 minutes. I thought it would take longer than that. Anybody got any real-time questions? Oh, I need to get this link here. I'm doing good. Hello, everybody. How am I holding up? I'm holding up good. I'm in California at the moment. I've been in California for a month and a half. Good to recharge, reconnect. I came out. You'll see in the upcoming videos. There's a couple videos that follow what we're looking at now. But I went to Bali, did some adventures in Bali for a month, and then I went to Bangkok for a week. Had some cool adventures there. And then Tritaya got damaged at the marina in a big storm, so I had to fly back from Bangkok immediately to Indonesia to deal with that. It's just like a split tow rail, but it was pretty frustrating. So at that point, I honestly, off the top of my head, I don't even know when that is. Sarah, if you're in the chat, could you tell me when I flew back to California? So when I got back and like dealt with Tritaya and stuff, I decided I had this new cruising guide for Southern California's Channel Islands coming out. I've been working on for 4 years. It finally came out. So I decided to come back to the States to do a promotional speaking tour and to sell the book. The speaking tour was in promotion of the book. So I've been in California over a month and a half, I think. Let me get a link real quick to the books. So other than the patrons, this little link I'm posting, you guys are all the first ones to have access to the online sales, people that came to the speaking events. I sold like 110 of these at the book tour. But now we just got a reset or a re-up from the printer. So Sarah said I arrived March 8th back into Los Angeles. So, but there's a link in the chat right now. You can also find a link to go buy the new cruising guide on svtritaya.com if you go on the news section or in the publication section. So it covers 27 different anchorages that I've been to firsthand. Brian Fagan, who wrote sort of the Bible cruising guide for the Channel Islands, he wrote the intro to my book. It's packed full of full color everything, tons of info. And there's like a 35-page section teaching you how to anchor, proper anchoring techniques, ground tackle for your boat, you name it. I've packed all the info in there about anchoring. So somebody said, gonna get a Bangkok video. Yes, there's a Bangkok video coming up in a couple weeks. So I think the next video is my trek back to Lombok, from Java to the north coast of Bali back to Gili Gede, and then and some adventures in Bali, which are really cool. That video comes out, and then Bangkok, and then I filmed a couple of my speaking events, and I got 2 good videos I'm going to edit into with some of the slides easier to see. So those are going to come out eventually. One is specifically, it was for the Single-Handed Sailing Society in San Francisco at the Richmond Yacht Club. So that it's a whole thing specifically about solo sailing. And then there's another one that's the highlights from the Berkeley Yacht Club. I got a good video of that one. Let's see here. I'll pop over to my chat. See if I know this is kind of flying over here. Let me see. Someone said Tritaya is in Bangkok. No, Tritaya is in Lombok. I flew to Bangkok. Tritaya is tied up in Gili Gede for the wet season, which is exactly, we saw the vicious storms. It was impossible for me to get out of Indonesia. So I had to turn around and take it back to Gili Gede. Marina del Rey is the name of the marina, which is funny because that's where I left from in California. So she's tied up there through the wet season. I'm currently in California, and I'll be flying back to Indonesia at the end of the month. So like, yeah, the end of this month, to get the boat ready to start sailing again. Let's see. You guys got any questions about the video we just watched? Any questions? Someone asked if I'm going to the Philippines. No, I'm not going to the Philippines. It's much too high risk, security risk. So I'm not going to be. I would go there, fly there, and scuba dive, but taking a yacht there is very, very sketch. What else? Someone asked if I'll sell south of Java. No, I'm going to sell up to Borneo. I want to see the orangutans and stuff. I might actually sell it around the top of Borneo. The problem is, since I missed my mark last year, I only have to go like 1,200 miles this entire year, which is kind of tricky because like the Indonesian visas are really tricky. So I'll probably only be able to get like a 2-month visa. It's like 1 month and then 1 month extendable. And then so there's not a lot of safe places to leave the boat where I can do a visa run. So I'm not really sure. I might go around the top of Indonesia, which means I could get into the Malaysia part of Borneo. But I might just push up through Indo in 2 months' time and get up into Malaysia. But I can't go north of Singapore until like August because then they're having the wet season up there. So they're having vicious storms up the Malacca Strait and in Thailand and in Langkawi and stuff. So I've run into a situation where I have to kind of go really slow this year, which is good because I did over 6,000 miles last year and was like faced pretty severe burnout. It was hard. Last year was hard. So it's good that this year is going to be less miles, but it's also tricky because because of the visa situation in Indonesia, and they changed the rules on visas even after you get them. Like the visa I'd already had, they changed the rules on it, like just like that. So you never know what's going to happen, and it can get real sketchy. Someone asked if I'm concerned about pirates. No, I'm not concerned about pirates. I'm going to post a link right now. I made a video specifically for this question many years ago. Stand by, please. So here's the link to everything I have to say about pirates. Pirates are only an issue in very specific places. People think pirates are everywhere. They're not everywhere. But there's a link that you can check out later on. Someone asked, do I get visual updates from the marina about Tritaya? I have friends that have boats there. All the Westerners put their boats in this one specific marina. And they have 24-hour security at the marina. The marina WhatsApps me regularly, so she's perfectly fine. All the worst storms have passed since I left, but there has been pretty miserable. Like Holly's still kind of putting around in that zone, heading up to Medina to haul out and leave her boat for a while. There's no wind and just tons of storms. That's why everybody just leaves their boats there and returns when the wet season's done. What else? Someone said, what's the security issue in the Philippines? Go to noonsite.com and go to any country in the world you're wondering about security. They have a security tab and they'll give a full breakdown of all the security concerns for every country in the world. Noonsite.com. Someone's asked if I would ever consider going to Annapolis Boat Show as a YouTuber. I wouldn't go there unless they flew me out and paid me, and it would have to be in a time when it wasn't going to interfere with my sailing season. Like I don't, if I happen to be in town, I would go, but I don't care about that sort of stuff. It's not really my scene. So, and I don't think they fly people out, so I'll probably never be there anytime soon anyway. I've been asked to go. I was asked to do the booth at the Auckland boat show before. But yeah, it's not really high on my list of concerns. So um, I apologize. There's a lot of questions flying over here. So I'm sorry if I'm missing your question. Thank you, CO, for that donation. Really appreciate it. So he asked, "Do you see diesel as a necessity? If you were to choose a new diesel, which would you pick?" Um, I would never want an outboard on purpose on a cruising boat ever, ever, ever. Diesel, I'm 100% diesel inboard. You know, I would do an outboard on the, like on a bracket on the back if I had to out of necessity, but I would never ever pull my engine out just for an outboard. I think it's completely insane. I mean, you're basically just sailing engineless at that point. And I also don't want a ton of like explosive fuel. So I'm hardcore pro diesel all the way. And Beta Marine, I believe, is the best like sort of current diesel on the market. That's what I would get if I had the money to repower with a brand spanking new diesel. What else? Somebody asked if I've met Barry. No, I have not met Barry, old Sea Dog. I know Holly ran into him at some place, but I have not met him. Somebody asked if my cruising guide will be on Amazon. I don't know if it will. My distributor, you'll be able to get it through my website or eventually through my distributor's website. But Amazon takes so much money that I would make like 5 cents if it's sold through Amazon. So I try to not. My other books are on Amazon currently because I haven't ported them over to my new distributor, but soon I'll be trying to remove those from Amazon as well. Someone asked what was the bubbling air leak in the end. It was just a one of the nuts on the secondary fuel filter had backed off a little bit. That's where the that air leak was. Where am I heading next? So yeah, the next plan is to sail from Lombok up to Borneo, and then Borneo to up through the Indonesian archipelago to Singapore, Malaysia, and then when the seasons change again, I'll be able to make my way up the Malacca Strait. I'm going to do a mini refit in Pankar, I think is the name of the boatyard. This guy James Coe is the foreman over there. I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff to the boat then and get her ready for the Indian Ocean. And then I'll kind of be based in Langkawi. And in December and January of this year, beginning of next year, I'll be cruising Thailand, west coast of Thailand. And then come March, beginning of March, I'll sail from Phuket to the Maldives, to Chagos, to Mauritius, Reunion, and then up to Madagascar. If the timing is weird, then I'll probably just sail from Chagos straight to Madagascar, but it'd be neat to sail to Mauritius and Reunion if I can squeeze it. And then on to Cape Town. Basically, I can't leave Thailand before March, and I have to be in South Africa by October for the seasons. Someone said, "How hard was that storm you went through doing it solo?" I don't think it matters solo or crewed. It could have been 6 people on that boat, and it wouldn't have changed the stress level of that storm. The problem with that storm is there was probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 feet under the keel. There was shoals and reefs in all directions, and the crazy fish stakes. And the rain was so dense that it was like driving in a whiteout snowstorm, to where I couldn't see. I could only see just past the bow. So I had the motor in neutral and like hardly any sail up, and I was still doing like 6 knots, so I couldn't slow the boat down. I'm in a tight channel. If I had been at sea, I would have just shortened sail and like went down and rode it out or hove to. But when you're in this really tight zone, incredibly stressful. So it wouldn't matter if there were multiple people on board. Actually, probably would have been worse because then you're tripping over people. Um, but it was like that thing was kind of the wake up call. And then I got hit by so many squalls after that outside the channel, and then that crazy barge thing. I was just like, I got to get out of here. This is like, so it just like, I had to realize that there was no way I could safely make it out. Someone said, "Are you going to add any mates?" No, I will not be adding any mates full time to Tritaya. Someone said, "If you could teleport somewhere you've already been on the journey so far and spend a couple weeks there with Tritaya, where would it be?" If I could, like, yeah, if I could like genie in a bottle and take me and Tritaya anywhere for some sailing, it would be Greenland. Greenland is like the most amazing place I've ever sailed. Someone said, "You look totally unstressed in that storm." Yeah, I excel at danger. Did anyone that's watching this, did anyone make it out to any of my talks on the West Coast? Pop in the chat if you did. It'd be nice to see that. Oh, hello, Lucy. Nice to see you on here. Lucy, will you pop in the chat and tell me what your sailing plans are for this y'all's next coming summer? What else? Says, how does the ship traffic in Indonesia compare to other places you've been? I sailed about, I don't know, 10 or about, I think, to around 10,000 miles from Los Angeles to New Zealand, like Hawaii, French Polynesia, American Samoa, Fiji, New Zealand. I saw 6 ships on AIS and visually or whatever in 10 to 11,000 miles between Australia and between New Zealand and Australia. I saw 12 ships on AIS, and between Thursday Island, Australia, and Tual, Indonesia, I saw 36 ships on, like, cited 36 ships. Some were on AIS, some were not on AIS, and then thousands of hits on AIS that I never saw. So the shipping traffic up there is bonkers. And a lot, I've seen so many giant cargo size ships and ferries that are Indonesian flagged that have no AIS. So they're just running dark. And then illegal fishing boats that run dark too. So it's pretty spooky. You can't really do night passages there. Cornelius T. Asphalt, eventually sail around Cape Horn. It's always been on the table. I keep saying when I get to Brazil, I think that'll be about 2 years' time. I'll make that decision. If I think Tritaya is up to it, and if I think I'm mentally up to it, then we'll head south. Like right now, if I was in Brazil, I would definitely head south to Cape Horn. But again, 2 years from now, we'll see what state the boat's in. We'll see what state I'm in, and then I'll make that call at that point. Hello, Samantha. Nice to see you guys in the chat. Thanks for coming to the meetup here in San Diego. Small bike stuff. Asked when I was getting a tattoo of a fad. Yeah, I'm not trying to remember those forever. Someone asked if I ever replaced my shaft seal. Yes, I did it. A PSS. Replaced it with a PSS, which I love, which is a dripless shaft seal from PYI. Why do people get the rings in their ears? The same reason people do anything, because they fucking want to. What else? What else? Oh, I'm reading Lucy's comment in the chat right now. Lucy, if you guys see Lucy in the chat, Sailing Lucy, she sailed to the sub-Antarctic islands on a boat recently. She also She has an amazing Contessa 32, so hop over and follow her channel. Someone's asking Japan. I won't be going to Japan because it's not in the trade winds. Once you get to Japan, you can't go anywhere except to Alaska, and I'm circumnavigating. Someone asked if I desire an upgrade to a sailboat in the future. No, Tritaya is perfect. There's no reason to upgrade. Cody, yes, I've had PSS for like 7 years. I know how to burp them, but thanks. Someone's asking if I'm familiar with the no bullshit just sailing. I think that dude has a lot of bullshit on his channel. He's very unseaman-like with a lot of his decisions, which I'm not a fan of. Someone said, any thoughts on a heavy-duty tiller port gear? Yeah, I want to get one of those pelagic tiller pilot things. Those things are awesome, but they're pretty pricey. So that's what I'd like to get. Those things are very robust. The brains are down below, so you don't have the problem that I have with those Ray Marines. But again, they're pretty pricey. Someone's asking, how do I care for my tattoos with sun exposure? I try to wear tech shirts a ton, and I wear sunscreen. But if I'm going to be out on deck quite a bit, I wear tech shirts and try to keep the sun off my skin as much as possible. But that's not just for the tattoos. That's for skin cancer mostly. Someone asked, how did I replace the shaft seal? I don't know how to answer that question. I took off the propeller shaft and put the seal on. Patty Ann asked that the name of my boat is an Owlberg 30. I'll type it in the chat. Someone said, as you sail around the world, do you think about sailors in the past? Yes, I regularly reference books written from sailors in the past, from everything from Captain Cook to the Hiscocks to the Roths. I regularly note and bring up getting to sail in the wake of other sailors that came before me. Someone asked if I have the Sea People app. Yeah, I have the Sea People app, and I was a little active on it in Indonesia, but I don't understand the point of that app. It just feels like more work, and I don't really see any kind of point to it at all. It's just I can't get my head. There's not even a way to like do like journals or blogs or anything. It's not. I don't think it's very user friendly. And I just was like, what am I? I don't understand. This is like taking up my time, and I see no benefit to it taking up my time. So I haven't used it since. Someone asked if I ever get ill. What do you mean, like sickness? I got sick when I go on land. When I went to Bali, I got sick. Everybody was sick on Bali at the time. Someone said my boat looks primo for what it is. Yeah, she turned 60 years old this year. Someone said, what year is Tritaya? 1965. So she's 60. I turn 50 next Friday, which I'm excited about. I'm going to go sailing to the Channel Islands on a buddy's boat, and I'm looking forward to it. Someone said, do I use No Foreign Land? I use No Foreign Land a ton. That's probably the best sailing app other than Navionics, which I use for navigation. No Foreign Land I use it constantly. I love No Foreign Land. Big fan. What else? Someone asked if I would consider a video on chart plotting and navigation. The thing is there are so many like well done videos on the internet, tutorials on things like that. I try to not sort of like over pollute YouTube with redundant videos. Like I try to not like a lot of times I'll only make a tutorial video if I've looked for something and have found that there's not a tutorial video. So then I'll make one. Um, so I think there's a ton of really good, thorough videos on chart plotting and navigation. So I don't want to sort of like just like dilute the system, you know? Thank you, Bambi. Appreciate it. Someone said, "Do I sail with buddy boats?" Yeah, there was like I mentioned it in the video we just watched. Sunflower China. I think I think they were American. There was a couple American boats I met. They were both catamarans, but I buddy boated with them. Kind of just and this these Finnish couple on Zelda sailing yacht Zelda. I buddy boated with them, but it was mostly just like we happened to be going the same time at the same places. It's not like we synchronized our thing. We just were like going the same way. Paul said wind hippie question mark. I'm not sure what that question is. Someone said, is there an alternate circumnavigation route to skip Indonesia you would recommend? You can sail straight from, you can go to Darwin and then clear out of Darwin and sail straight to Christmas Island. And then from Christmas Island to Chagos or Mauritius and skip that. But I wanted to see Indonesia and I wanted to see Malaysia and Thailand. So it's been very challenging, but I'm looking forward to cruising Thailand. So sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. Yes. Oh, Paul was asking if it's my friends with Holly Martin. Yes, I'm good friends with her. I interviewed her on my Yarns podcast. I interviewed her parents when I was in Maine in 2023 on my podcast. I had dinner with Polly and her mom in Bali, but right before I left and came back. So yeah, I'm good friends with Holly and we text each other regularly. What else? Brian asked if I'm going to get boat work done in Thailand. Not in Thailand, but in Malaysia. I'm going to sandblast the bottom down to the gel coat and either do copper coat if I can get them to sponsor me, or I'll just redo the bottom, but I want to get it super, super smooth. I also want to hot dip and regalvanize the chain and my anchor in Malaysia. I want to repaint the top sides. I need to repaint my decks. Also, Malaysia is duty free. So I think that's where I'll be doing another like big lithium upgrade with Dakota Lithium and a new alternator. That's the whole problem with the dinghy. Like my dinghy's in a bad way, but I could get a dinghy sponsor. That's not an issue. But Indonesia charges between 100 and 200% duty tax on anything you ship in or bring in if you get caught with it. So I can't risk having a sponsor send me a dinghy and then them charge me 200% tax. So I'm just going to have to like make do with my dinghy or have to buy a cheap little dinghy in Indonesia to last me a few months until I get to Malaysia. What is the hardest thing about solo sailing? I don't know the answer to that. I love solo sailing. I guess like after a big season, seeing tons of amazing places, you start to get bummed that there's not someone to share it with. Like I never get lonely on ocean crossings. I prefer like solo ocean crossings for sure. It's way better. I've done ocean sailing with cruise. I've done ocean sailing with romantic partner, and I've done it solo. And I way prefer it solo ocean sailing. But when you've been cruising for a long season and you're in these really stunningly beautiful places and you don't have someone to turn to, like this is amazing. I think that maybe that's the least attractive thing about solo sailing is not having import places, like really cool spots to explore with, so that's why like a good thing for solo sailors is you can have friends or relatives or a lover come and visit you some places and cruise with you in short periods. I think that's a good sort of compromise for solo sailors. But some people just love the solitude and they always like to be alone. So it's like case by case for people. Someone said, during your initial refit, what upgrade has helped you the most? Probably my hard dodger. Patty Ann said, how do you overcome fear when you're out at sea 1,000 miles from shore at night? I've never had any fear offshore. From my first ever ocean delivery, the first time I ever got, like days away from land, I was like, had peace wash over me and I never had any fear. So I think I can't be one to speak on how you get over fear of being at sea because it's always been a place of peace for me. Someone asked if Tritaya's deck has any soft spots. Zero soft spots. Someone again asked if piracy is a concern. No, piracy is not a concern. As long as you don't put yourself in places where you know that there's bandits and security concerns, then piracy is not a concern. Yes, someone asked if I've ever swam in the ocean by my boat. Yeah, if you watch the French Polynesia passage video, I swim in the middle of the ocean, not tethered on, away from the boat. What's the longest you've been out at sea? The LA to Hawaii passage was 32 days at sea. I've spent more than 100 days at sea alone over the last 4 years. Not consecutively, but 100 in total. Someone said, what are some of the activities you do besides reading, writing, and making repairs when you pass time on long passages? That's pretty much, I edit video. So mostly, though, I read, I write, I think. I don't believe anyone should have Starlink on an open ocean passage. I think it takes away from the true magic of disconnecting and like really experiencing the ocean in its true form. So yeah, I just take in the piece, and I edit videos to be ahead of the work so that when I make landfall, I have videos to upload. Let me turn this light on. Hold up. Oh, got some watermelon water, which is funny. Favorite books to read. Sarah, will you go to my link tree and paste my books list? I would appreciate that, Sarah. Thank you. It's hard for me to find links on here. I should have had some loaded up. I usually do, but off my game tonight. Someone said, where am I currently staying? I'm currently in San Diego, California. I went for a very lovely day sail today on Sea Wolf, SV Sea Wolf. It was beautiful out. What's my favorite passage so far? Probably the Hawaii to French Polynesia. 26 days, 2,323 miles. Beautiful sailing. Fantastic. Well, the first 9 days were actually the worst sailing of my life. But everything after that, once I reached the doldrums, everything after that was so heaven. It was like the best for sure. And the Tasman crossing, which is supposed to be a very, very mean bit of water, but my Tasman crossing was heaven. But that one, I was so stressed, I kept waiting for it to get bad that I never really relaxed, even though it was perfect the whole time. But the French Polynesia passage was heaven. What else? People keep asking if I'm going to get a bigger boat. No, I'm not getting a bigger boat. I'm circumnavigating on my beautiful 1965 Alberg W. Sloop SV Tritaya. I do not have kids. Someone asked if I have children. I do not. Sarah just posted that link to my books list. It's a mix of like technical books and like sailing story books. Um, and I've read a couple new ones that I haven't got on there. I need to add on there, but I update it regularly. Someone said mostly canned food on passage. No, a lot of like rice and beans, eggs until they're gone, ramen when it's really bad. But like for ramen, I'll do ramen and I'll have kimchi, so it's like makes it good, and kimchi's really good for you and tastes delicious. Um, and yeah, if I have fresh fish, then I'll like simple pan fried fish with rice is good. I like Japanese curry a lot. So not just canned foods. Canned is like what you end up getting down to when you do like a 20+ day passage in the end. Hello, Rob and Jackie from Connecticut. Hello from Jakarta. Awesome. Cool. And then someone asked if I have ever circumnavigated the world. Not, I have not circumnavigated yet, but I'm halfway through this one now. Someone said bananas are actually bad luck on a boat, but bananas were only considered bad luck on a boat, and it's mostly fishing boats because they used to pull them off of trees and they could have poisonous spiders in them. So that's where the superstition of bananas on a boat come from. So, Sarah, did you just troll hunt 2 comments, or did people remove their own comments? Where is the boat now? The boat is in Lombok, Indonesia. Someone said, "What is the night sky like without the moon drowning out the stars?" It's remarkable. It's like the Milky Way is so dense; it looks like a sculpture. It looks like you could just touch it. It's amazing. And again, there's usually in the trade winds, unless you're becalmed, there's like clouds. There's always trade wind clouds. But if you're becalmed and there's no new moon, or that's a new moon, not like a full moon, it's remarkable. I grew up in the desert, so I've seen some pretty amazing stars, like in New Mexico. But out at sea, there's nothing like it. Someone said, "Any superstitions you take seriously?" Yeah, I do not leave for a serious passage on a Friday. I've been on 2 different boats where captains ignored that, and really bad things happened in both instances. So, as a rule, I don't leave on Fridays for an overnight. Like I'll leave if I'm going to arrive the same day, but for starting an overnight or a long passage, I never leave on a Friday. I'll leave at like midnight, so 12:01, but that's my only real superstition. Thank you, Patty Ann, for the sweet comment. Appreciate it. Favorite canned item to open on the boat? Probably canned peaches. That's pretty good. People keep asking if I see anything unexplainable or weird in the middle of the ocean. The only thing I've ever seen that I would really consider sort of paranormal or like something I couldn't explain was sailing from from the Kai Islands to the Banda Islands in Indonesia at night, probably 2 in the morning. I saw like a little light appear in the sky that looked like the shape of a tic tac, and like those breath mint tic tacs, and it just sat there in the same spot for a long time, and it was very bright. And I watched it, probably sat there a minute or two, and then it flashed and faded out. Like the old timey TVs when we were kids, you turn them off and it does that flash starburst sort of, and it did that and vanished. That's the only weird thing, unexplainable thing I've seen. But most of the time at night, I'm like resting down below, so there may have been other things I didn't see. Someone said they'd like to see me participate in the next mini globe race. See, the thing for me is like I can't understand why anybody would sail around the world and not stop and see all the magic. To just say you sailed in a loop doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, why don't we take all the terrible parts and miss all the magic? Like for me, and I have zero ego when it comes to like racing. Like I don't care who can go in a circle quickest. Like that doesn't matter to me. So yeah. After I circumnavigated, like maybe I would do one. I like the OGGRs where it's all sextant and stuff like that, but I just can't get my head around why anybody would do that. Thank you, Maintainereth. Sarah, will you reply to that asking about sending direct money? We have a couple different places where they can do one-off contributions. So thank you for the donation and the request. Appreciate it. What else? Oh, hi, Miss August. Nice to see you in the chat. Someone said, have you ever heard any weird noises? I've had tons of like aural hallucinations. Almost every solo sailor I know has aural hallucinations. And you'll be totally awake and hear them. So the most common thing that I've heard, and all the solo sailors I've visited with and we've compared notes, we all kind of hear the same things. The most common thing I hear is it'll sound like you're in like a crowded restaurant that has really high ceilings. There's lots of plates clanking and lots of conversation, but you can't make out any conversation. So that's a really familiar sort of aural hallucination. Another one was sometimes I'll hear, especially if the engine's running, it'll sound like an AM radio of like a band playing music, but you can't understand the lyrics. And then like it'll only happen if I have one ear on the pillow. If I raise it up and I hear with both ears, it'll go away and I'll put one ear down and it'll sound just like there's an AM radio blasting out of the engine bay playing specific like kind of rock and roll music. It's super weird. But the weirdest hallucination I've ever had was I was at the mast in the middle of the night reefing and I heard myself in my own voice say "fuck" from the cockpit, clear as day. And I stopped and looked back. Super weird. Let's see here. Someone said, "Do I have a cold?" No, I have allergies because I'm in California right now. What else? Someone said, when I sail across the Atlantic, will I stop at any islands? Yeah, I plan on sailing from Cape Town to Namibia, Skeleton Coast, to St. Helena, because I want to kiss that big tortoise, Jonathan, right on his head, and then to Ascension Island, and then to Brazil. That's my planned trip across the Atlantic. I just had to troll hunt. Somebody was saying inappropriate things. Someone said, "I can't believe you have taken a break. Does the breakup have something to do with that?" No, the wet season has it. I just showed a video where I was in 40 knots of wind for 2 hours near shore. It's the wet season. This is how cruising works. You sail to specific places and then you continue sailing. The entire time, even if me and Rhonda had stayed together, we had planned on getting to Malaysia, putting the boat in a marina, and doing inland travel for 2 months in Southeast Asia. So this was always the plan, is to wait until the correct sailing season. So it has nothing to do with me and Rhonda breaking up at all. Has nothing to do with it. And it's like taking a break. All I would be doing was sitting on Tritaya while it's raining outside and not going anywhere. So the other option is to come to America and like promote my new book. Yeah, I'm going to come to America and promote my new book. This is how it works. Someone asked if I'll stop at Sri Lanka. Probably won't stop at Sri Lanka. I would like to, but it's a nightmare with bureaucracy. And then they only let you go to like one port. So I can't justify clearing into a country, taking up time that I would rather spend that time in Madagascar where I can go to a bunch of places. So I probably won't go to Sri Lanka, unfortunately. Thank you, Harold Johnson. Appreciate it. Someone asked if I have a solution for the plastic problem. No, I'm just a simple sailor. I don't have any answers. I just have been exposed to it in a very real way. Dreamcatcher, yes, I plan on going to Dreamcaster. I plan on going to the Maldives. Someone said, have you sailed in the northern latitudes? I've sailed from Newfoundland to Greenland to Iceland. Someone asked if I heave to and clean my bottom offshore. No, you should do all that business before you get offshore. Someone said, longest I've had a bird sail with me. I only had a booby stay with me overnight once on the bow, which I was glad he was on the bow and not like pooping all over my boat like some people have. What else? Any more questions? Someone said, do you ever listen to music while sailing, or does that take away from nature? I almost never. Sometimes on long passages, but when I used to do day sails and I would take landlubbers out, I was like strict about not letting anyone play music because the sound and everything is part of the sensory experience of sailing. So I listen to music when I'm at anchor and stuff, but when I'm sailing, very, very rarely. Sometimes if it's a really long passage, meaning more than 10 days, sometimes I'll play music while I'm cooking dinner or something. But for the most part, I don't. I like to just kind of take everything in. Any more questions? We got about 12 more minutes. Someone asked if I'm going to the Seychelles. Probably not, because they charge you to anchor there, and I am very much against being charged to anchor. I'm probably going to have to pay to anchor in Chagos too, but it's such a unique place that I would do that. But the Seychelles, I'm not. That's just more of the same, I think, as far as like it's similar to the Tuamotus, it's similar to the Maldives, so I can't justify it. It just annoys me that they would try to charge me to anchor and stay on my own damn boat. It's madness to me. Someone said, how do you verify who will be helpful with your repairs? I do all of my repairs, so I can't really answer that question very well. Sometimes on No Foreign Land, there'll be like boat yards where people will give reviews, so that might be a good thing to look into. That might help you. Someone asked if I sleep in dark time or light time offshore. I sleep at night. I start my sleep schedule at 9 p.m. and I set the alarm for every 2 hours as long as I have working AIS. Every 2 hours, the alarm goes off. I get up, scan the horizon, check the sails, check the course, and lay back down. A lot of times squalls will hit or the ship will wake you up because she needs more sail or less sail. So you don't always sleep for 2 hours, but that's my general sort of, that's when I'm well offshore, not coastal. Someone just asked if I would stop in St. Helena. Yeah, I plan on stopping in St. Helena. Exercise on long passages. Long passages are exercise. Someone said, any plans to sail to Thailand? Yes, I'll be cruising Thailand in January and December. December of this year and January of next year. Miss August asked, how long is Tritaya's anchor chain? I have 300 feet of chain and 200 feet of rope road attached to it with a 45-pound mantis anchor is my ground tackle. Where do you pull your most information from about destinations? I buy like paper cruising guides for every country I go to because I love paper books that I can flip through. I can dog ear. I can make highlights things. No Foreign Land is a fantastic place to find out about really remote places where there aren't cruising guides available. Navionics I don't find as useful, but there are some things. But now that No Foreign Land is so good, there's also a thing called Zulu. Online or something like that. But Zulu, I don't like the interface is pretty annoying, especially compared to No Foreign Land. So No Foreign Land, I think, is like my favorite thing about No Foreign Land is that people can give reviews for the anchorages. So that to me is priceless because if someone stays there in June, they're going to have a different experience than somebody stays there in December. So you can see everyone's different take as these reviews stack up and you can see like parallels to experiences, or you can see night and day differences. So I find that to be the reviews on anchorages and locations and stuff. And also a lot of people they'll meet someone, especially in Indonesia, they'll find someone that can help them get diesel or food or water or something. And they'll put their WhatsApp number in the listing. So then you're like, okay, well, some other cruisers have used this person. And I actually did one of those in Lovina to try to get fuel. The dude came out, it felt sketchy, and I didn't get fuel with him. So it's not always foolproof, but at least you have some sort of minimal amount of vetting from another cruiser. Sarah, can you post a link to the cruiser guide as well? Thank you very much. Someone says total nautical miles sailed. I think I've sailed not just like total on my boat and other boats. I think I'm over 22,000 currently, but over 16,000 like on Tritaya since leaving LA. Someone said, what's the worst weather you've had to deal with in the open sea? Over 45 knots sailing to New Zealand for hours and hours. I was reefed down to the third reef with a little scrap of headsail out. Very nasty business sailing to New Zealand. Someone said, thanks for the info on the Wallace line. Very interesting. I thought that was fascinating when I found out about the Wallace line. It was cool to cross it on the boat. Have you ever had to deal with an injury far out at sea solo? I blew my shoulder out like 2 days from Hawaii. That was when I didn't have the rudder too. Like I was stepping down into the cockpit and I grabbed the top of the Dodger and I slipped and it like twisted my shoulder, and it took like a year for my shoulder to get back to normal. So that was like pretty challenging. But that's the worst I've had. But I take great care to go really slow to like slow down all my responses. And I talk about all this on this solo sailing talk that I'll be posting on the channel soon from Richmond Yacht Club in Northern California. Hello, Robin. Have I ever seen a live sunfish? I've seen many, many, many live sunfish in California. Someone asks, is there any place do you have to form a captain's license to cruise? No, you do not need a license anywhere in the world to cruise. If you're a foreign yacht. If you're a local, that I don't know the local rules for locals, but for a foreign yacht, you don't. Any concerns of your standing or running rigging? One of the reasons I came back to LA was to bring some parts back. One of the things is going to be a new main halyard. But my standing rigging was brand new when I left. It'll make it all the way around the circumnavigation, no problem. Someone says, what's your storm tactic? Do you have a staysail? I have a Solent rig on my boat and a storm jib that I've never, ever, ever used once because I sail in the correct places at the correct time of year. Someone said, what's the craziest thing you've seen in wildlife since started sailing? Probably the school of tuna that stayed with me for 3 days as I approached Hawaii, and the marlin that was like picking them off one at a time. That's on the Hawaii Passage video. That was like pretty remarkable. What's my favorite knot? Probably a clove hitch. Someone asked if I collect rainwater. Yes, sometimes. Depending on the Dyneema rigging. Dyneema rigging, if I had a coastal boat, I would rig it with Dyneema, but that stuff stretches over the course of about a year or more. So I didn't want to do it on my boat because you have enough to worry about without worrying about your rig getting slack and constantly having to mess with it. So I'm not interested in Dyneema rig on an ocean going boat. Someone says, any plans for a water maker? Sure, if like some kind of I find a genie bottle that pops out $5,000, then I'll get a water maker. Someone said, can you talk about YouTube life? Tony, if you'll be more specific in the question, I'll answer your question. Someone says, does your brother still update you on coming ships? He doesn't have to anymore because I have a really good AEST transponder unit I installed in Australia. You have to have AEST transponding to go into Indonesia. So I had to like cough up $1,000 to get that legally to enter Indonesia. And I wish I had put that thing in Hawaii. It's like having a transponder and like a screen that shows boats up to like 36 miles away. It is the greatest. And knowing that they can now see me, I really wish I would have like figured out how to pay for it way back when, but I have it now. Have I ever met sailors that have a cat on their boat? Yes, I have. I met an American couple that had 2 cats on their catamaran boat. So, yep. And then an Australian couple in Indonesia that had a cat on their boat. Challenges of YouTube life. The greatest job I ever had. I don't have any complaints. Any advice for first solo across the Chesapeake on a sunfish? ? Never sold a sunfish, so I can't speak to it. Someone said, do you have a 5 to 10 year plan? Yes, sailing. Does making videos detract from the magic too much? I film like, I don't know, less than 20 minutes a day in a 24-hour period. Some days I don't film at all. So, and that pays for my entire traveling the entire world. So no, I would say it does not take away from the magic. Someone said, how long have I been sailing? What types of work did I do in my old life? I've started sailing in 2014. And I was an art handler at the highest level for 20 years before I started sailing. So I worked for all the major museums, every celebrity and rock star that you can think of. I've hung art in their homes. Just worked at, the craziest, up to like $200 million paintings and that sort of level. That's what I did for 20 years before I started sailing full time. How many GoPros do I go through a year? GoPros are the worst. I actually, when I was in Bangkok, I upgraded or side graded to a Action 4, I think. So DJI. So I'm not going to buy any more GoPros because the last two GoPros I've had have one of them turned into a brick after 4 months, brand new, and they wouldn't take it back because it didn't have a physical receipt. They wouldn't even exchange it. I'm like, it's your product. This is a problem with these GoPro. I think it was a 10 or something. They refused to just exchange it because I didn't have a paper receipt. And then the GoPro 11 I bought glitches constantly and crashes all the time and overheats. So I'm done with GoPro. And we'll see how the wind noise is on this one. I'm going to be filming my birthday sailing trip next week to the Channel Islands. So that'll be the first sailing. I've did my Bangkok video was filmed with this new camera, but there's no sailing in it. It's like land adventure stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, I hate GoPros. They're terrible. Is art trading money laundering? I'm sure people launder money with it, but no, the art is culture. Have I bumped into any fans on my journey? I've had people recognize me in every port in the world I've been to. Um, People recognize me if I'm near boats usually. How often do you climb the mast at sea? Never. I always take care of that stuff before I get out, and I've not had any situations where I had to so far. Knock on wood. Sheldon said they didn't know how far back the videos were. I made an entire video. If you Google search on my channel, why sailing videos are not real time, YouTube videos aren't in real time, it explains everything you need to know about not just my channel, but every channel you watch is not in real time, or they're definitely not anywhere near a week out. Maybe some people that are just doing like boat repair stuff, but I have a whole video that explains why channels are not in real time. It's just impossible. We're looking for the book to buy. There a link for that? Sarah, could you pop that um, link up? Someone said you need to take us to the behind the scenes of the Art World Museum. Well, that's funny. Like I signed so many non-disclosure agreements in the when I worked in the art world that I can't talk about any of that stuff. Like I've worked for Jay-Z and Beyonce. I've worked for Madonna, Sharon Stone, Warren Beatty, Sting, uh, everyone, Simon Cowell, everyone you can imagine. I've worked. Leonardo DiCaprio, I've worked in his home a ton. Flea, I've moved Flea like 3 times, all of his art and stuff. So I've worked with so many crazy celebrities and seen incredible collections, but have signed so many NDRs. I can't tell any stories in public. Someone said, "How do you edit videos?" I on Final Cut Pro. Someone said, "What are the unique challenges and rewards encountered sailing in Indonesia's diverse and often remote waters?" Um, like Indonesia is easily the most challenging place I've ever sailed because the anchorages are crazy deep. There's very little wind at the time of year we were cruising through there, so immense amounts of motoring. All the diesel has to be polished because it's contaminated. Getting water is really challenging. There's only a handful of marinas in the whole of the country, but easily the most remarkable experience I've had since leaving on my circumnavigation was visiting the Sea Gypsies at the Sempela Stilt Village, the Baju tribe. For me, that was the most remarkable thing I've experienced in Indonesia. So, while it has been the most challenging, it has also supplied me with like one of the most remarkable things I've seen in my life. So, a little bit of both. Um, Someone said, "Will I ever sail over Canada Northwest Passage?" Yes, actually, there's talk of the woman Celia Bull who runs Selkie Sailing out of Egg, Scotland. We're talking about doing the Northwest Passage on that boat that I learned how to sail on at some point. But there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of sort of like logistics that have to happen. But we might do that sometime in the next couple of years. Someone said, "Was it hard to adjust to Rhonda's departure after so many epic adventures together?" No, because I only showed you on film what I wanted to show you on film. So it was not difficult to adjust to her leaving the boat. I was, sad because my heart was invested, but it was far harder than it appeared in the videos leading up to her departure. Somebody's saying something about new style boats. Halbagrassis are good blue water boats. There's also some other companies that make proper still blue water boats with like full keels or skeg hung rudders and stuff. But I don't shop for boats. I don't actively look for any boats, so I don't know anything about new boats. Um, People keep asking me if I want a bigger boat. No, I don't want a bigger boat. Anymore. It's like just over an hour, so I'm probably going to tap out here in a second. So, anybody have any more questions? Have I ever come close to running aground? I've ran aground several times. There's what do they say? There's three kinds of captains: captains who have run aground, captains who have yet to run aground, and liars. Do I ever watch sailors on YouTube? No, I don't. When I lived on land and I desperately wanted this life, I watched tons of channels, but I don't watch anything on YouTube. Have I got heating? Yeah, I have a forced air diesel heater, but I only used it a couple times in New Zealand because I'm in places that are obscenely hot otherwise. Someone said, what is the editing tool I use again? Final Cut Pro. All right. Sarah, thank you so much for helping me with the chat and posting links. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the Java Saga. It was pretty gnarly. And I can't wait to show you guys the rest of my adventures. Tons and tons of stuff coming up. So, again, if you want to pick up a copy of my new cruising guide, it's very beautiful. svtritaya.com. And again, thanks so much. You guys are fantastic. And it was fun chatting with y'all and hanging out. And fair winds until next time.